This podcast is part of the Big Heads Media Podcast Network. Go to bigheadsmedia.com for more great podcasts.
Hello, and welcome back to the Curious Kid Podcast. It's the year 2020, and we're back just like we promised we would be. To celebrate the new year last year, we recorded an episode on what life was like 100 years ago. It was a very popular episode, so check it out if you haven't heard it yet. We want to do something to celebrate the new year this year too.
This week we're getting curious about the last decade.
That's right. A decade is 10 years. A decade just ended, and that decade is called the 2010s. That decade stretched all the way from the year 2010 through the year 2019. Many of our little listeners were born in that decade.
I was also born in that decade.
You were indeed. Many amazing things happened over the last 10 years, so we are going to discuss them in this episode. What we will do is we will go year by year. I will mention a serious event that happened in each year, and Olivia will tell us something a bit more fun that happened in each year of the 2010s. The question of the week is about something that happened 10 years ago in the year 2010. What is the question?
The question of the week is, which state is home to the 2010 NBA champions and 2010 World Series champions?
Okay, let's get started with the year 2010, which was 10 years ago. In January of 2010, a very destructive earthquake with a magnitude of 5.9 hit the country of Haiti. It was the most devastating earthquake of the last 10 years.
In January 2010, Apple introduced the iPad. They have sold nearly 400 million iPads.
Ooh, that's a lot of iPads. Moving right along to the year 2011, which was 9 years ago. In October 2011, the worldwide population reached 7 billion people. Just 12 years earlier, in the year 1999, the worldwide population passed the 6 billion mark, so the population has been growing steadily.
Snapchat was released in June 2011. When it was released, it was called Peekaboo.
In the year 2012, which was 8 years ago, the spacecraft Curiosity landed on Mars. Because this is the Curious Kid Podcast, we love the name of the spacecraft. The spacecraft Curiosity has been studying Mars, and its landing has given us some pretty important information about Mars, as well as some amazing pictures.
In the same year, Disney World started to allow the employees to have beards, mustaches, or goatees. Until that year, facial hair was not allowed.
Next up is 2013, which was 7 years ago. In May of 2013, Walmart became the largest company in revenue, passing ExxonMobil.
Also in the year 2013, I was born. The date was October 9th, 2013. It was the most incredible day of my parents' lives.
That's adorable. It was an incredible day, but maybe we can mention one other thing that happened that year.
Sure, Frozen was the biggest movie in 2013. It was my favorite movie. I used to sing the song Let It Go all the time.
How could I forget? Frozen grossed about $1.3 billion worldwide. In 2014, which was 6 years ago, the Ebola epidemic was big news. Ebola is a very contagious and serious disease that was spreading through West Africa. Many countries were preparing in case Ebola continued to spread beyond the countries of Guinea, Sierra Leone, and Liberia, where most people were impacted. There were 2 confirmed cases in the United States, and by the end of 2014, the Ebola virus was well contained and no longer posed a threat to other countries.
The Ice Bucket Challenge raised a lot of money that year. In the Ice Bucket Challenge, you pour a bucket of ice on your head, and then you challenge other people to do it too.
Most importantly, you were supposed to donate to the ALS Association if you completed the challenge. The Ice Bucket Challenge raised $115 million for the ALS Association. Okay, in the year 2015, which was just 5 years ago, China ended its one-child policy. For 36 years, couples were only allowed to have one child in an effort to end overpopulation in a very crowded country.
In the same year in Japan, they started letting people dance after midnight.
That's right. For 67 years, it was against the law to dance after midnight in Japan. Strange, but very true. Now, this interesting event from 2016 is a little odd, so pay attention. Twins by the name of Samuel and Ronan were born in Massachusetts on November 6th, 2016. Samuel was born first at 1:39 a.m. His brother Ronan was born 31 minutes later. But get this, daylight saving time took place at 2 a.m. That means that although Ronan was born 31 minutes later, he is legally considered 29 minutes older than his older brother because the clock moved back an hour at 2 a.m. between their births.
That was really weird. Also in 2016, my little brother Noah was born. Noah was also a top 10 baby name that year. Way to be creative, Daddy.
Olivia was a top 10 name in 2013 also, but I think both of your names are beautiful. What else happened in 2016?
People went crazy for this Pokemon Go thing.
They sure did. Pokemon Go was an app for the phone. When you played Pokemon Go, you would need to try to catch Pokemon that are only visible when you use your phone. It may sound silly, but this app was very, very popular for a few months. Okay, in 2017, which was just 3 years ago, the Great American Total Eclipse took place. For 1 hour and 33 minutes, on August 21st of that year, 14 states, stretching from Oregon to South Carolina, went dark during the day as the moon blocked the sun. A solar eclipse like the one in 2017, which was visible throughout the entire contiguous United States, had not occurred since 1918, almost 100 years prior.
Also that year, Starbucks introduced the Unicorn Frappuccino.
The Unicorn Frappuccino was a fruity drink made by Starbucks. This thing was all over the place. It was only available for a few weeks, but people thought it was pretty, so they bought it. Lots of people were posting pictures of their Unicorn Frappuccinos on social media, and even though it was only available for a short time, the Unicorn Frappuccino helped Starbucks increase its sales by 4% over the previous quarter. In the year 2018, just 2 years ago, Prince Harry married Meghan Markle in a royal wedding that cost $45 million and was watched by about 30 million Americans.
IHOP turned into IHOB in 2018.
This drove me crazy. In 2018, IHOP, which stands for International House of Pancakes, changed the P to B, as in the International House of Burgers. They started advertising their delicious burgers. Of course, I fell for this gimmick and ended up going to try one of their burgers just to find out that the name never changed and that it is still called IHOP just like it always has been. Finally, let's move on to 2019, the last year of the decade. In June, astronomers announced that they believe that there are 2 new planets that can sustain life and may be very similar to Earth.
That's exciting news. Also in 2019, Old Town Road was the #1 song. I loved it so much, I was singing and dancing to it all the time.
You absolutely loved that song. Is it country? Is it hip-hop? Who knows? It is very catchy though. That much is true. You love music, and Old Town Road was definitely your favorite song of last year. Okay, let's answer the question of the week. The 2010 World Series champions and NBA champions both came from the same state. Which state is it?
They both came from California.
You got it. The San Francisco Giants and Los Angeles Lakers won championships that year, and both cities are in California. Well, that's a wrap for this week's episode.
Thanks so much for listening to this week's podcast, number 66, on the last decade.
Great job, Olivia. I want to remind all of our listeners that we are now going to be releasing listener suggestion episodes every other week. So if you haven't sent us an email to CuriousKidPodcast@gmail.com to let us know what you were curious about, this would be a great time to do so. Also, please head over to Apple Podcasts to rate and review the podcast. It really helps us so much. Next week, we have a fantastic listener suggestion episode lined up for everybody. As always, thank you so much for listening and getting curious with us.